Well, thanks for joining me on this little video where I'm going to try to describe the forces associated with rolling motion. The particular motion I'm going to describe here is sometimes called smooth rolling, or I'd prefer to call it rolling without slipping. If you imagine your car tires on the road, sometimes if you have a slippery surface like wet roads or icy roads, your car tires will spin and maybe the car can't go anywhere. You have a lot of rotation of the tires, but not enough linear motion of your car. And other times you have maybe locked the wheels, and so your tires aren't spinning at all. You have no rotation, but you still have a lot of linear or forward motion. So with rolling without slipping, those two are in sync with each other. So every time that the tire turns around one time, your car moves one rotation's worth of motion. So if I draw this here, we could just picture, let's say we look at your tire and we put a little mark at the point where it touches the ground right there. Then sometime later, we're looking at the same tire and it's rolled one complete time around, so that dot is in the same place. So if you look at the angle that it rotated through, the rotational part, that's one complete revolution around. That's 2 pi radians. And how far forward did it go? Well, that's one circumference worth of forward motion, or 2 pi r worth of linear motion. So the connection between these is if we just take the angular motion and multiply by r, that will give us the linear motion. So this is how we write that. Take the angular motion, multiply it by r, and that will give us the linear, sometimes called the translational motion. So here's omega, the rotational speed or angular velocity we call it, multiply it by r, and that has to match the linear speed or the forward motion of the center of the rotating object. So that right there is the requirement that matches rolling without slipping. So how do we get that to happen? Like I said before, if you get too much rotation or not enough rotation, you'll get slipping or sliding. So let's take a look at the trip of this tire as it moves along up a ramp and then flat and then down a ramp. It turns out that if we have something smoothly rolling on a horizontal surface, there is no change in its linear speed. And therefore, there can be no change in its angular speed either. So both of those motions, the rotation and the linear motion, are both steady and constant. And in order to do that, we cannot have a friction force acting on it. Now notice I didn't say we can't be on a frictiony surface. We can have plenty of mu. So I've denoted here that mu is not zero. But just because we have a mu doesn't mean we have to have a friction force. I'll give an example right now. You can be standing up maybe watching this and your feet are standing on the floor. There's plenty of mu between the bottom of your shoes and the floor. That doesn't mean there's a friction force acting on you right now. Because there's no tendency to slip or slide, you're not trying to move anywhere, you have no actual sliding, there's no friction force. Now that might kind of surprise you. Say, well, how can we have motion here without an actual friction force? Well, I'm going to show you a picture of a tire that is smoothly rolling across the ground, and I will show you that there is no actual motion at the point of contact. Here's a picture right here. Now, notice how it's very blurry at the top of the tire. Blurry in photography means things are moving very quickly. But if you look at the very bottom where the tire touches the ground, things are very sharp. And in photography, that means that nothing was moving very fast. And the sharpest point on there, although it's hard to tell in this picture, is exactly at the bottom where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. There is no velocity at that particular point. Even though the entire tire is moving forward at a particular speed, that point on the tire at the very bottom has no velocity at all. That's one of the things I said is very surprising when people study rolling motion, that there are different speeds for different parts of the rolling object. The very bottom is at the slowest, it's actually 0, and the very top is where it's moving the fastest, which is why that picture was blurry at the top. So no friction here, and likewise, no friction up here at the top, or when we get finished down here. Now, what about as we go up or down? Let's think about how we keep the rotation in sync with the linear motion. The linear motion, we know, as something goes up the ramp, is going to get slower. We're going to accelerate down the ramp, and because we're moving up and accelerating down, that means it's going to be getting slower. So I also have to make my rotation get slower. Here's that requirement. If v goes down, omega has to go down. Well, how do you slow a clockwise moving object? Well, anytime you want to slow some clockwise motion, you need a counterclockwise torque. I need a torquing force that can make this thing torque counterclockwise. The only force I have on this object that's able to torque it is the friction force. Gravity can't torque it, and the normal force can't torque it because they're both going right through the axis of rotation. So I need to draw a friction force here at the point of contact that would be a counterclockwise torquing force, which means, maybe surprisingly, that the friction force is going to be up the ramp. Now, this is still the same kind of friction that we had before, where we have no motion at the point of contact, and that means it's keeping the slipping from happening, and so this is a static friction force. Now, on the way down the ramp, now we've got speeding up in the linear velocity, so that means more speed down. So I now need more clockwise speed in order for the rotation to keep in sync with that. So I need a clockwise torque. And again, friction is the only force capable of torquing this. So a clockwise torque, I would have to draw up the ramp like this. And you see how the way that's pointed, this is going to tend to want to spin it in this direction here. That is the friction force that's associated with this. So now we see kind of this theme that I've described before about friction. Static friction is something that responds to what we need. So we needed something to keep us from sliding down the ramp, so static friction pulls up the ramp. Here again, on the way down, we have a friction force that's keeping this from wanting to slip as it goes down the ramp, so again, it's up the ramp. Maybe a little surprising, because this is not what sliding objects would do going up and down a ramp. So that's pretty much all the important stuff related to friction and rolling. And there are more advanced questions that I haven't dealt with here because I think it's good for you to be challenged by those. But remember this requirement here. Anytime you're rolling without slipping, that's a necessary requirement. In my AP class, this is important enough to find its way on the reference sheet, so we'll use that. And then just remember how I reasoned my way through understanding which way friction would act. And I think that'll get you through lots of problems that you face. Thanks for watching.